It's crazy that an old man like Chuck Banks can create that type of flash and pizzazz and all that sort of stuff. Guys, I just want to throw out there right away that Coach Didi is running a little bit late coming from Des Moines. I think he got in trouble with some snow squall or something like that or whatever. We did get Coach K on this week. It was interesting that an offensive minded coach would be here 2 minutes ahead of time, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Got the big Isaac. Isaac, congratulations on being sports Dog Pound Radio Sportsman of the Year. He'll be handing out a I think it's the Isaac Newton Award. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
I
we
think
got
that's the
Cowboy.
trademark now.
What's that?
Yeah, I think that's the trademark now for it.
Absolutely. So, we got Coach Cowboy up there in the upper right hand corner, and again, Didi will be just a little bit late. Isaac, it's all yours, buddy. And then, I'll kind of remove you from the platform unless you have a question here and there. But who do you got this week?
Since there wasn't many sports this week, I'm gonna have to take it back to football, where I had my own kind of like managing team, and I'm gonna give it to Devin Feuerhammer.
Okay. What's crazy is Isaac, you're probably going to have to get a picture because I have a lot of hey yous. That's kind of how I communicate in football. People know that. Hey you. I remember when I couldn't remember Henry Ireland's name for the freaking life of me, and it was a travesty, Coach Kozarich. They look at me, or he comes up to me. He's like, "Who am I? Who am I? Who am I, dude? You're just hey you right now." But anyway, hey Isaac, congrats again, buddy.
Appreciate it.
What are you most looking forward to in 2026?
Let's see. Kind of excited to get back into the sports and just going to events. I love traveling around Iowa and just experiencing different schools and teams.
Excellent, buddy. Well, hey, we appreciate you on Dog Pound. We appreciate you in Fort Madison, dude. If anybody was deserving of the Sportsman of the Year, it's you. So, congrats, man.
Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Congrats,
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to remove Isaac from the train here. Coach Kozarich, I've got some wild and crazy questions for you.
All right, I got my seatbelt on, man. Ready to roll.
Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, man. So again, I don't want to ask that one. So this one's a good one. If your life had a warning label, what would it say?
Oof. You know what I start to realize here lately is anytime that a task is on hand, I really focus on that, and it's hard for me to move on to something else. So, for instance, during football season, obviously, my main focus is on football. Right now, we're planning a Disney trip, and I have not stopped planning the Disney trip for a couple weeks. So it's been nonstop. It's consumed my break and everything like that. So my warning would probably be I just get fixated on things. I try to make sure that they're perfect and well thought out and well planned, and that's probably my warning.
Who has worse ADHD, H.A. Hoffman or Michael Kozarich?
It's probably in different realms, but yeah.
Oh my God! All right, so I have a few more. I won't ask that one yet. All right, so okay, this one's important. I think that any coach that's ever or anybody that's ever been a head coach or an activities director can throw this out there. What's your toxic trait, but you're self-aware about it? It's a tough one.
I don't know. I think that there's so many toxic traits out there in the sporting world that I try to make myself known of them, and I try to avoid them at all costs. One of the biggest things that I see, and I can't say it's about myself because I try to be self-conscious of it. Our little guy's starting Pee Wee wrestling, so we're starting to go to these wrestling tournaments, and man, the World Series.
Are you yelling at officials?
No.
Okay.
No. Honestly, I saw that today, and I was just thinking, like, instead of using that as a teaching moment for your kid, you're complaining because the official didn't call it the way you wanted it to go. And they're anywhere from, my son's 4 years old, so they're 4-year-olds to junior high kids, and I'm like, nobody's winning the state championship today, nobody's getting a scholarship, and so it just kind of drives you nuts, right? Like, use that as a teaching moment, instead we're instilling some, maybe negative behaviors into our kids where, a lot of complaining, a lot of, I saw some bands being thrown and all that. But, the wrestling world's not my forte, but man, I got a huge appreciation for it.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to answer that one because it's so doggone hard. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to leave you hanging there. So my toxic trait, but I'm self-aware of it, would probably be sarcasm, and I don't mean to do it, but I am probably at least top 5 most sarcastic people maybe on the planet. And Joe Rogan's probably just above me. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard not to be, sarcastic, but every time that I am sarcastic, I'm like, bad boy, bad dog. You know what I mean? It's bad DAWG. It just can't hit me. All right, so
train yourself, yeah.
Yeah, this one was great. I jumped in on Danon, Cowboy up in the upper right, and I asked him this, and this one's a tough one, man. What lie do you tell yourself the most? I'm gonna ask Didi. I'm gonna open this one up for Didi too, because he, this is a good one.
I'll let you guys go ahead.
I mean, here's what I'll say as a coach is something that I've always told myself and that I repeat to other coaches is like, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. So after a loss, I think a lot of times we come down pretty hard on ourselves. And what I try to remind everybody in my circle is like, hey, you're not as bad as you think you are. You're closer than you think. And then when you win and you feel really good, it's like, maybe you're not as good as you think you are right now. Winning lets you feel a little too high sometimes. So I think that's a lie that I tell myself. So then I have to remind myself like, hey, just because we've done this or accomplished this, that doesn't mean, however you feel isn't necessarily always true.
One of the biggest lies that I tell myself sometimes on a daily basis, or that I'm promoting, is there are times when you get up in the morning and you just feel like garbage, right? Mentally, physically, whatever. And we all know football's a freaking grind. So is wrestling and basketball, but that's a different story in its entirety. Now, one way that I constantly lie sometimes is telling people I'm okay when I'm not. And this is something that I've tried to shift. I did say shift, right? I want to make sure my pronunciation here in Southeast Iowa is appropriate. I have shifted though, and tried to promote that aspect of being honest, especially when you need to be honest. We always need to be honest, right? But it's those little white lies sometimes we tell ourselves. And Mike, I think you hit yours, right on the head as well. It's one of those things, right? And I know that some of our dudes, and some of the dudes I've coached, as a head coach, and some of Didi's and Danon and Mike, some of those, we have those weeks where we're going up against Goliath, right? And I used to hate being a part of certain staffs that says, "Oh, we're just going to get our butt blown out." Okay, I got to fix that, right, Derek? You're gonna have to yell at me, man. But so we're gonna get our butts blown out. It's gonna be rough, and then you kind of have that fake sarcastic week of practice, in preparation. I think we've all been involved in, what I mean, a week's planning such as that. But how do you promote that? And if your coaches ever, make a statement that you're going to get your butts kicked, how do you handle that? It got really freaking deep really fast.
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? And it goes, in my mind, it goes a lot with your kids. I don't know if it's necessarily a program problem. I think it's a year to year. It's a team problem more than a program problem. And it's really about your leadership that you instill in your kids. In my mind, like how you prepare for everyone's, should be similar. You're always prepared to win, and obviously you have better chances of winning certain games than other games, right? And we all know that, and our kids know that, and they're smart, but at the end of the day, I think in those big games that you're talking about, Coach, is, you usually go into them thinking we got to get lucky to win. And usually by halftime, we're sitting there going, we should be playing with this team. you know, and you're frustrated. And I think it's because for some reason, there's a lot of reasons, right? 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, it's really hard to make them believe they can do something they don't know that they can do, right? So until they do it, it's unknown and it's harder than it sounds. You know what I mean? So I just think, like we talked the other day about mental toughness and stuff like that. And I think that's an off season, right? You got to win those games in the off season. Your kids got to feel like they've worked hard enough to be in that game. And if they don't, then you're probably not going to have a great chance.
I remember, coaching Derek's cousin, Ben Rooney, who's also part of our staff. And we had a Williamsburg team coming down that was pretty good. We had just lost to the worst team in our district, Louisa Muscatine, and we put the wood to them. I wish you could bottle up that stuff and you know what I mean, have that easy, freaking, button or whatever, but it is what it is. Didi, did you have something?
No, I mean, I was thinking about your question, and I'm thankful that I've never been on a staff or around coaches that's their mentality. That wouldn't be a place for me. Call me crazy, but you've heard me tell the kids their guys are 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are going and sitting in a math class that they absolutely hate, and they're dealing with problems, and they're sick and they're this and they're that. You can't put people on a pedestal. And I loved my time at Iowa City West with Kaz and them. Like Hartwig, that dude, man, and he's not even talking rah-rah, but he makes you want to climb on top of the roof and eat the shingles off the place. Just, he's so mentally tough and doesn't take a backseat to anybody. And I was like, all right, I'm around my people.
All right, so we got a comment here from Jocelyn. Attitude first, then technique. Guys need to be bought into the program so you can teach technique. That's wonderful, coming from a parent,
Absolutely.
right? And
Yes.
she's also a gold sponsor of Dog Pound Radio, so I got to give her a shout out. Colton, my man, he's half on the mic with me. What's a good drill or practice technique to flip the mentality so we don't have, or to get rid of that aspect? Is there a good drill or a technique? I know in the off season, Derek, you've created a phenomenal, off season technique, and that's one of our subjects, that we're going to get in with Coach Kaz. But who wants to answer that first? I can put it back up there.
I'll say, just from my experience with Kaz, I'm not going to give away their secrets or anything, but man, they had we call it a juice period, but they had a little period inside of their practice that I got to witness a couple different times that, man, it just gets the dudes going, and the excitement goes through the roof. And I know when I was sitting in the coaches meeting, they're in the playoffs, and it's like, hey, do we back off this? No, we got to keep our edge. And that was something that I was just excited to hear. It's like, this gives our guys an edge. We're not going to take it away. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. And I really liked that period of their practice.
Yeah. A big thing that, we preach is we want to put our guys in situations where they're going to fail. I think sometimes we try to, I don't want to say coddle, but, we try to set our kids up for success. It's actually funny today. Again, it's my preschool son, Knox. He's wrestling for the first time ever. And he lost his first match today. And he came off. And after he settled down, right, and he said, well, we learned the most from our losses. And I was like, heck yeah. Like, he's been listening, right? And he's 4 years old, going to be 5. And he's like, it's good to lose because we learn from those. And that's exactly what we preach to our kids. We got to put them in situations where they can fail. They need to fail in the weight room. They need to put a weight on they don't think they can do and learn to overcome that, right? Because that way, when they get in that competition where they're like, hey, I'm competing against somebody I'm not sure I can beat, because that creeps in the back of your head no matter how good you are or bad you are. And so when that creeps in, you can already say, I've already faced that demon, right? Like, I've beat this before, so it's not an unusual train of thought. Like, you've already been there. So we always put our kids in spots to, fail. And I think that's all right.
You know, I think I used to call it, you know, it's our job as coaches is to take you past the point. You know what I mean? Past your point. I can't think of the doggone word of it. So, you know, we'll have to get to the Coach Doherty. You know, what's bugging him a little bit later. You know, I had that question, but it's go ahead, buddy.
I do want to add what you guys were talking about when I first jumped on, and you know, football's a unique thing because you get 9 tries. You know what I'm saying? Like you get 9 games, that's it. Success breeds success. So how do you break through with the mental toughness, with learning to win tough things and do things that you don't think that you can? And again, that's why I know Kaz is too, but big proponent of multiple sport athletes. And I just think that, you know, if they're learning on the basketball floor, the wrestling mat, the track, whatever it is, and they're getting opportunities at those breakthrough moments, right, by competing, then awesome. That's what we need. And I know that when we first started changing things around at Fort Madison, that was a large part of our conversation is we found a lot of ways to lose. And then we had a good group of guys that came that were bought in and they did everything. They were multiple sport athletes. Cowboy was one of them. And those guys found ways to win. And I think, you know, we're looking at Dane in here. He did it on the wrestling mat as well. He found ways to win. I mean, he was outmatched or whatever, and he didn't give a damn. He was going to find a freaking way, and he did.
You know, I saw a quote I think it was on Friday. You know what's crazy is you know, we've been off a week. I didn't even know what day it was this morning. But on Friday, this guy said, set unrealistic goals. Set them. Set it to the sky. Now I can see where, you know, it could be a positive and could be a negative, right? But set unrealistic goals so you go after it. You know, I think the biggest thing is our kids have to be okay with you know what I mean, getting knocked down, but they can't be okay with staying there. And again, it's a mentality. You know what I mean? It's a system. And you know what? Frankly, football isn't fair, right? Life isn't fair. You know, how many times did you get your ass knocked down in football, and then you know, and then you kind of you complained about it, whereas in retrospect, you know, that's the shift. I think, you know, we have to stop complaining and come to a solution and an agreement, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the greatest thing about sports, right? Like the game ends, we all know that. What did you take away from your experience? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, Kozlovich just had a great run. I mean, that he had a fantastic team, won a lot of football games, but he'll be the first one to tell you, like, his goal is to produce elite young men, and he's doing that. And, you know, the game ended for all of us. We were lucky enough to continue to be a part of it by coaching, but I think back on all of the things that I learned from the people that were in my life and have shaped me and guided me and still do. You know, I mean, I don't have to look too far to have one of my old coaches, Coach Smith. If I need something, I talk to that man. And that's the overall purpose. Winning is fantastic, and it's important, you know, like, don't ever get it twisted. Winning is important, but those life lessons, you know, who do you become by going through our program? And I think that's why I love our program so much. And I get offended when kids don't, you know, when they quit or say that they don't want to play football. I don't care if you want to play football. I want you in our program. Like, our program is going to help mold you.
Coach Kaz, you know, I have to throw this out there before we get into the real serious talk. You guys are supposed to laugh, man. Come on, man. I've been deeply analytical these last 3 weeks, haven't I, Didi?
Yeah.
Holy crap, man. I don't get it. Now, Coach Kaz, what's your most memorable Banks halftime speech?
Halftime.
Well, it could be before the game too, I guess. You know,
might be more when you didn't talk because you're sitting in the ambulance, you know, of a blowout
jeez.
that we were winning.
Yeah, we won 66-14
We were
or
probably shutting
20.
them out.
Yeah,
Wasn't good enough.
I know. I was pissed, man. Why didn't we score 100? It was
think we could've.
Keokuk,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I think we could have.
Yeah.
And so that rivalry must have just led you to Fort Madison, to be a little closer to it.
I don't know, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
The big thing that stands out for me, playing for you like my freshman year and stuff, it wasn't like the X's and O's, and I think that's what this is all about. It was the connections, like feeling like, hey, no matter what football is, this guy cares, and he wants what's best for us. And I think that that's the big thing, right? That we're all talking about is it's not all about wins, but whenever kids graduate, wins start to become success, and we want all of our kids to be successful, right? And no matter what they're doing, we want to be successful in life. We want them to have what they want, and learn how to get that, whether that's, having a great family, having a home, providing for their future kids and things like that. Like that's what it's all about. So, yeah. And I think that Coach Banks, like you did that, as a freshman coach there at Centerville. It was a huge transition time. Football is always the first thing that you do, move into high school. High school is usually a new building, right? So that's a huge adjustment. So your freshman coaches that are getting their hands on these kids for the first time and making that transition smooth is very, very important. We think it's important in our program too at Iowa City. So, and yeah, I saw the comment there. We've got some really special dudes, and they put a lot of work into it, and we give them as many opportunities as possible, but they take advantage of it. And I think that's the big thing from one program to another is like, I think every high school in the state's probably giving their kids a lot of opportunities. I'm not sure every kid's taking advantage of those opportunities, right? Maybe they think that if I was at a different school, I would, but it's like, our coaches at Iowa City West, they probably know as much as other coaches from other programs. I don't think we're any better. We try to be better, but we probably don't stand out. I mean, we work our tails off, but I think every coach in the state probably works their tails off.
100%. All right, so we have a couple of questions here, and then we can rock through. What's a favorite quote or poem that you preach to the kids? I mean, Isaac already knows Dee Dee's, right? It's TR, but who's yours?
Favorite quote is probably one that my dad said, and it's always stuck with me, and it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And I think, being from a small town, it's not about where you come from, who you are, what you look like. It's what you're willing to put into it, right? And that's what you're going to get out of it. And so I know we said, like, life's not fair, football's not fair, and I agree with all that stuff. But also the more work and effort you put into it, the more it's going to reward you. And the less time and effort you put into it, it's going to catch up, right? And when you try to take shortcuts, those shortcuts show up in inopportune moments. So as much as it's not fair, it also kind of balances out at times, right? Like when you do good things do happen to you. Now, do good things happen to bad people? Yeah, absolutely. Or to good people? Yeah, absolutely. But that's just part of it, right? And that's maybe the unfair part. But I do think there's a little bit of balance. So that'd be mine. I think that, Fort Madison, obviously, like you guys go up against powerhouses, from some maybe different socioeconomic status places. And I think that's something that you guys could probably rally around as well, of like, you're not always going to be the biggest team, but you can have the fight, right? And that changes a lot in athletics.
100%. All right, so Colton Vermazen has a question. What sports do you think most kids overlook that could be a really great opportunity for a multi-sport athlete? And I'm going to say except wrestling, because I think wrestling is, it's awesome. I think the biggest is boys tennis. I think that all of our boys should sign up for boys tennis next year. I hear you got a new
who's
coach.
the coach?
Chuck Banks.
You got to plug when you can, man.
Heck yeah.
I'm not going to answer that question, but I will. I think it's going to be the sport that people avoid, right? And the reason being is because the kids are avoiding it because they're not very good at it. Because it's really hard for people to do things they're not good at, but that's probably what we need to be doing, right? It's kind of like face your fears and all that stuff. Like it's good for you to do something that you're not the best. I can see typically like the best basketball player, might shy away from doing some other sports where they might not be as successful, and I think that's hurting them, not only on the basketball court, but also in life. So I think what we do as coaches is we always push our kids to play multiple sports. Our quarterbacks, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the state in 5A for sure, returning next year. And he's taking up swimming for the first time ever.
Swimming.
Wow. So again, a sport that, most people don't even think about, but it's really great. It's easy on the joints, but it's still training. So it's not, putting as much pressure and stuff like that on, the knees and everything like that. But it's just another out of the box sport. Obviously I love, your main sports and everything like that. And I can't not plug the tennis, right? Change of direction. It's pretty important.
Chuck Banks tennis.
So, yeah.
Dean, before I get to Faulkner's question, Dean, you hit something right on the head 365 days or a little bit further ago. And you brought in weights and diet and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
What made, I guess, when did you decide enough was enough and I'm going to change? Because, man, I look up to you right now. You're kicking it.
I just got – I was obviously starting to get active again, and I just needed to change my diet, change my ways, change my lifestyle. It just kind of kicked me in the butt, and then going now, I'm introducing – trying to introduce some of my habits to the athletes, as in the nutrition aspect and stuff like that, because that's something I wish I would have done right off the bat when I was an athlete playing sports and stuff like that. I feel 10 times better than I ever have.
Well, I'm using you as, kind of my poster board there. All right. So big question here. And this is kind of where we were going anyway. Okay. What's the best way to prepare your players in the off season, mentality / film, or actually skill work and competition? Great question, by the way.
Yeah.
For example, you're probably, like back when I used to run the flex bone, I always say flex bone because I know Owen Huffman's watching and he gives Coach Didi a hard time because of flex bone. But, if you're a flex bone coach, you really don't need a lot of competition to throw the ball, right? 7-on-7. Do you need it? Not really, right?
I don't know if I could ever marry into the flex bone. I'm sorry, but
Thank you.
No, but you're right? Like what fits the needs of your teams, what fits the needs of your players. It's a loaded question, obviously.
It is very loaded, kind of like boys tennis.
There's a lot of things that go into it. I think the big thing is having a weight program where you don't just walk in the weight room and just start lifting. I think we are so far from that. And I think that a lot of parents don't really understand all the time and effort that goes into the weight programs and the planning and the programming and the individualization that happens at majority of our high schools. But I also think you'd be surprised if you walked into certain high schools, how that's kind of how it is still, right? How you walk in and you just start picking up some weights and lifting them, which is kind of sad. But it's also resources, personnel, experience, knowledge. I think at Fort Madison, obviously, I've been there, I've shadowed, I've watched. Derek does a great job. Derek spoke at different clinics and everything like that. And I know it's a team effort and everything like that down there. But, I think you guys are in good hands there. Again, the big thing for us is we do something 5 days a week with our guys. They're in the weight room before school. Monday through Friday, right? And a couple of those days are speed and agility days, but that's just a fact of it. They'll be logging into their Huddle accounts and we can see how much time they've spent. I know we have numerous guys right now with hours, in the last 7 days, and we haven't played for, it seems like 5 years, but We haven't played for, a month or whatever, month and a half. And, and then our guys are already like setting up their own 7-on-7 skill stuff, trying to get places to throw. I know it was warm out the other day and they were down at the fields throwing, and so they just took that opportunity. And it's really, in my mind, it's player driven, coach led maybe. The players got to have the want to do it, but the coaches have to kind of lead them on like, hey, here's some things that you can be doing. But I think number one, it starts in the weight room. I think one of the bad knocks on it, just being an AD, formally and everything like that, is you always hear like football's going all the time, like football's all year. And it's like, when we're in the weight room, that's not football. That is athletic performance. And it doesn't even need to be athletic. It's health. We are trying to make your student athlete be healthier, you know what I mean? And live a better life. And I think a lot of the times that gets a knock on it because everybody thinks, well, football is just trying to take all of our kids for weight room. And it's like, no, that has nothing to do with football. That's about athletic growth right now. And if I wasn't doing it as a football coach, it wouldn't be getting done. And I think that's the hard thing for a lot of people to swallow, because not saying this is everywhere, but it's really hard to find coaches from other sports to put their time and effort into it, And so I think it just kind of gets bottled up with football because typically your football coaches are the ones running your weight room.
I'm going to throw out there, Dee, and I'll let you respond as well. I coached 2A, as a head coach, had the same issue. You've coached 3A and 4A. I won't say, what I mean, your answer. Mike coaches 5A. I'm sure it happens in freaking 8-man football, whatever. But, what's your response, D?
I agree with, obviously I'm very pro weight room. And I think that's the fight that we fight here. Me being the head football coach, he just is trying to develop football players. And quite honestly, I think that we've gotten past that. And I think a lot of our kids understand that I care about Fort Madison. I care about them being successful. I train a lot of kids that don't play football for us, whether they run cross country or they are just basketball players or just baseball players or whatever. Try to have a room that everybody can go to. But I remember my dad saying something to me when I first started getting into the job that I have now. And I was telling him about some of our fights, about how some people just, they don't prioritize the weight room. And he said, man, we were lifting back in the 70s. Now he comes from Bettendorf, which obviously is a powerhouse, historically, good every year at everything they do, it seems like. And I think that we still fight a lot of those fights of, well, when I was an athlete, I didn't have to lift. And we tell our guys all the time, back then, weights was kind of an edge. Now it's not an edge anymore. It's for relevance. And I've been in Mike's weight room. I've been fortunate to be in there and see those kids. And I think that one of the major differences is the priority. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a freshman who's not going to step on the field. He's in the weight room. And I've heard Hartwig call out names, kids that aren't, and there's certain things that they've got to do. And, so it's awesome to see Hartwig prioritize it. And again, I just think that it obviously pays off. I mean, when we were winning football games, we didn't have guys missing the weight room. Correlation? Don't know.
Mike, what is your job up at Iowa City West? I mean, I know you're the offensive coordinator, but let's talk shop about what you do besides the football coaching.
Yeah. So right now, obviously, like you said, I'm the varsity offense coordinator. It's my second year there. I also teach sixth grade science. Last year I was social studies and science at the sixth grade level. But I'm also and I'm not like a titled strength coach, but we have a PE person that comes in and runs our strength conditioning, but we also have an outsourced company that creates our program, and then we get to make some adjustments with it on what we think our kids need. And then every day, I'm in the weight room at the beginning of the day, along with Coach Hartwig, who, Derek's mentioned numerous times. And he's one of the main reasons that I came to Iowa City, is just because I knew he's a great dude. Above all else, take the football out of it. He's a great football coach, but he's a great person. He's got kids in the system. He cares. He's cared before his kids were in the system. His family cares about athletics. It's not just something that he does to pass time. So that's somebody that I wanted to kind of partner up with and share and learn from. And at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do, was surround yourself with somebody that you can, get better. You always want to perfect your craft. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. I've, tinkered here and there with some other sports and kind of questioned some things. I don't know. Like, football is my number one love, but I've started to tiptoe in some other sports and have some conversations with some other coaches about some things. But at the end of the day, football is my number one passion. But I just love seeing our guys compete, and I think that's the number one thing about athletics, is just getting your guys out there and competing.
All right, so I'm gonna get rid of the seriousness here real quick, and I want to go around. Michael will answer this question last. Sorry, I called you Michael, Coach K. I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, so if your inner voice had a name, what would it be? If your inner voice had a name, what would it be?
Cowboy.
Yeah.
That's my inner voice. I'm Danon, but my inner voice is Cowboy.
That's good. Mine would not be Buck Chanks.
No, I got another word for that one.
That name just ticks me off, really rubs me wrong. All right, Dee.
Man,
If your inner voice had
Psycho.
a name, Psycho.
It's Psycho.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty crazy in the head.
Oh God. Mine would be Chucky, like the doll. Like, want to mess
Kind of
with
creepy.
me? Yeah, no, not creepy. Damn it, it's Psycho.
You said yeah.
Oh my God. All right, Mike, what do you got?
Man, that's a good one.
The Wizard.
Yeah.
That's
He
his.
is the
Coach
freaking
K is a
wizard.
wizard, man. He's a wizard.
The one thing that I'll say that I think that I'm pretty good at, and my inner voice does a lot, is I question things. You know what I mean? And if I don't have a reason why we're doing something, I question it. And I think that's good, because I think for everything that you do, you need to have a reason why you do it. And if you don't, then why are you doing it? Right? Or why are you doing it that way? So I always, if the wizard falls under there, I'll take it. You know what I mean? But, Coach Harwood would say the same thing.
That's funny that you say that. Because we talk often about a certain conversation that we had on the golf course, and you asked me a question that still just, I think about it literally every day. And when was that we golfed? Multiple years ago, right?
Yeah,
And
Coach Banks was still at.
yeah, you're really good at
Central League then.
deep level questioning.
Yeah,
Right.
I just think you got to think, right? You don't just do things because you've always done it that way, and you got to look from different perspectives. And so maybe I have a bunch of different voices in my head, all from different perspectives.
He's got a multiple personality disorder.
Well,
Okay.
is it a disorder or a gift? I don't know.
It's a gift today, unless never mind.
Yeah, you're good.
You know how I am sometimes. Anyway, last funny of our show here. You're famous tomorrow. What's the scandal? Okay, we'll get rid of that one, because everyone's looking at me like, Chuck, what are you doing? Holy crap! All right, let's go here. I got to find a good one here. Let's see. I already asked that one last week. Don't want to do that. What would your enemies say is your biggest flaw? Mine would say he will overthink stuff. Okay. But I got news for those you know what, little boys out there. Chucky's back.
Yeah, I think mine would probably say that I'm too emotionally involved. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I have a lot of enemies, but I guess like my opponents, you know, being an offense coordinator, being on the field, you know that your energy is contagious to your players. I admire guys like Kirk Ferentz, you know, who, you know, they block a punt and return it for a touchdown, and you know, and he's chewing his gum and moving on to the next play, you know, and he's seen it all, and unbelievable. Like his personality is just so even keel all the time. I probably need to work on that because the highs and the lows can influence the way that, you know, you feed onto your players. I don't know. I also know there's a lot of college coaches, you know, like Lane Kiffin, you know, who's very energetic on the sideline and hopefully for a positive reason, right? But I'm sure negative too. I know Matt Campbell's blowouts a couple of times on the Iowa State sidelines gets me fired up too. We've all seen that, right? So I don't know. I would say that's probably my biggest flaw, though. You know, I think as a coach, you never want your emotions to control how you call a game or what your adjustment is. So I think that just kind of keeping those in check is a big thing.
Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that one?
I would say mine would be like my seriousness. Like, obviously, no, I'm kind of a sarcastic, jokey guy, but I don't know when to flip that switch to like let the kids know or anybody know that I'm serious. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like people take me very serious very often.
Okay. I kind of see you as a serious dude. You know what I mean? Somebody that's going after it. I think a lot of times it's that self-reflection piece, Dana. You know, like me right now. I'm a 53-year-old man, but my brother John still sees me as a little shit. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
then you know what I mean. So I think you're pulling in that past instead of looking forward. You know, and again, that's my opinion. You know what I'm saying, but it's my psychology trait. All right, I have to answer this one, and then we got to get rocking with Coach Kozarich. If you got offered the head coaching job, would you rather go to Iowa or Iowa State, Banks? Iowa State's falling apart. I would rather go to Iowa, and I'd put in the flex bone. Anyway, all right. So, Koz, what's the most important thing, you know, in the off season? That what is the most important thing as you're getting ready? You know, obviously to hopefully do another quarterfinal, semifinal, even a finals next year. What's the most important aspect of the off season that you have to instill?
Yeah, I mean, for us, and it's always for us, right? Never for me, never for whatever. It's for us, and that's the big thing is just what do we need to do? So first and foremost, we got to get answers, right? And we got to get answers to everything that caused us problems throughout the year as a coaching staff, right? So anything that we saw throughout the year, I see Dory's already got X's and O's drawn up on his board behind him. He's thinking already, right? But you always try to get answers, right? And that's the big thing. So what I would put that as is we need to get out as a coaching staff and continue to learn the game of football. The game's always changing, right? Not every team's running the flex bone anymore.
Hey, I think there's going to be a lot of teams going to run wishbone,
They
triple.
might come back to it, right?
I know.
Things go in circles, but and then for our players, it's really just building that team chemistry, and then development, right? Which is the weight room. I mean, more than anything, those are the big things that would come off the top of my head of like, here's what we need to hammer out real quick.
Here's a big question for you, Mike. You know, I see a lot of programs running the 4-2-5 or the 4-3, whatever. How come you don't see much odd fronts at the 5A level?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. Part of it might be that a lot of people are coaching what they know, You know what I mean? Obviously, the forefront's probably the oldest front in the game of football, and I don't know that for a fact, but it seems like everything started from a forefront in the NFL. It's a forefront, right? And so some of that NFL background, they play a forefront, right? Coming also, what I'd also say is maybe some of those guys at the 5A level are trying to prepare their guys for the next level. And so depending on positions that they're projected at, sometimes they try to keep their guys there. So if you got an edge rusher, well, the easiest way to get an edge rusher, obviously you can get an edge rusher in an odd front too, right? But the easiest way to get an edge rusher would be to have a forefront, right? Because then you have two defensive ends just naturally. No, I think that a lot of it's just whatever you were brought up in, right? Whatever you're familiar with, because every one of us coaches what we're familiar with, right? And so either that's you going out and learning, or this is what you were taught, right? But what you'll find out, I think, and no knock on anybody out there, but I'm just not sure how many coaches really want to get out and learn. I don't know how many coaches are really going to clinics. I think that sometimes as coaches, we put ourselves up on a pillar of knowledge, and we think, oh, I coach at Iowa City West. There's a 1A coach talking about this. They're smaller than us. I'm not going to, jump into that clinic meeting because I don't think I'm going to get anything from that. That's the best thing that I like about our staff right now at Iowa City West is our guys want to learn from anybody and everybody. If somebody said, hey, I got the best way to do a stretching routine, our guys would be like, let's go listen, right? And let's see what we can find. I'll tell you what else, like obviously I was a head football coach at a 1A Class A school too. And there's some darn good coaches out there, even at those smaller schools. So just because you're not at a 5A school or a 4A school or whatever it might be, that doesn't mean that you're not a good coach. And there was a point in time where I kind of felt that way about myself of like, am I decent? Like, could I go and win at 5A? Could I go and produce? And so until you do it, you don't know. But there's good coaching all the way up through, and football's football.
How many hours a week are you working up at 5A?
Yeah, so during the season, I mean, it's a grind. It's a grind, and I pretty much I don't do as much as our head coach does, but we probably put the same amount of time in. We just in different aspects, right? So obviously Monday through Friday is pretty cut and dry. It's pretty much what everybody else does. Walkthroughs are typically on Thursdays, team meals, team meetings Thursdays, film on Monday, all that good stuff. And then on Saturdays, we always bring our guys in for shakeouts. They do like a light workout, where it's more movement based. They'll also do yoga that our trainer puts them through. And then they'll also just do their recovery. So if there's any injuries, we'll get that taken care of. And then when that's done, usually about 8:30, me and a few of the other coaches will go down and we'll meet till about 12:30 or 1. So I'll get home about 2 on Saturdays. And then on Sundays, we come in at 7 and we meet until probably 2. So it's about 7 hours each day on Saturdays and Sundays. And then outside of practice, I think I logged usually somewhere between 8 to 12 hours of film a week. So that's, 1 to 2 hours of watching film every week. Depending on the opponent, on Thursday nights, I'll start prepping for the next upcoming opponent. And nothing crazy, just kind of trying to get their starters dialed in. So that way, when we watch them on film the next week, we can see if they're missing a guy or not, just so we get some of that quick stuff out of the way.
Didi, I've taken almost the whole freaking show and I haven't allowed you to ask questions. I apologize, brother. So it's all yours.
I'm looking at my sheet here, so kind of a fun one, and I hope I didn't ruin it for you on the trip to Cedar Falls riding next to you, but I did look over and I saw Hartwig with his headphones in, and my first thought was, I wonder what he's listening to. So do you have a pregame pump-up song? What does Kaz listen to pregame?
Man, honestly, guys, like my nerves are going so much that I don't need anything that's going to amp me up. I'm pretty wired. Honestly, I try to keep my mouth shut as much as possible on the bus because I'm almost like you guys have seen a buck and bronco when they're in the chute, right? And the cowboy can't even get on there and get saddled up. That's kind of how I feel like on a bus ride. So I kind of try to like take my mind off it as much as possible. So I'll probably do something that's slow or like an acoustic, something that doesn't have a lot of upbeat, just to kind of, like I said, my biggest, in my mind, one of my biggest weaknesses is sometimes I get a little too amped up, right? Like I let my emotions sometimes control my play calling, and then I'll come back and I'll be like, man, why'd I do that? Like, but in the moment it made sense, right? Now, for granted, we were, the number one offense in the state in the regular season. So, but you still kick yourselves in the rear, when things don't go well. So, yeah, I'd probably play something acoustic or something that makes me think of my family, because I'm doing it for them too. So what's the Beautiful Things by Benson Boone or whatever. That's probably one of my go-tos. My daughter loves it and she says, sing it to me. That's my song, and I'm a really bad singer. So she loves it though.
I've heard you sing, man.
I'm probably in the 8th grade choir or something.
Yeah.
So, Kaz, this question from Coach Fry is loaded. I was sold on old huddle, new huddle sucks, blah blah blah. I go to your staff meeting, everybody's on new huddle and all of that, and I was like, well, shoot, I better learn this. And I'm a new huddle guy now.
Yeah, it was. I was probably halfway through the year, but last year, my first year at Iowa City West, I'm a new huddle guy, especially for like breaking down opponents. Anytime we're doing like year in review, I'll cut everything in the old huddle. Anytime we're making presentations, I'll do that in the old huddle. But in the new huddle, anytime that you're game planning or breaking things down for upcoming opponents, new huddle's the way to go. The filters on there are unbelievable. You just got to make sure that everything's tagged correctly because you can't trust everything that huddle does, regardless if it's new huddle or old huddle.
How are you guys utilizing AI? AI is here to stay. Have you ever looked at AI and determined that they're full of crap?
I mean, everything can be full of crap at some point, right?
If it's on the internet, it's got to be true.
It's got to be, right? It used to just be Facebook that was true. Now it's everything on the internet because you can't believe anything nowadays. But no, honestly, so we'll do our end of season evaluations and stuff. So we'll script out every single offensive play that we called all year and give it a breakdown. And then I submit it into AI and I'll have AI give me reports back. So they'll give me reports on first down efficiency, second down efficiency, third down efficiency. And the new huddle would do some of that too, but I can have AI also do it based on obviously down and distance, which is on new huddle, formations, and I can just spit out a lot of information into a sheet that I can then present to people instead of continuing to tab and find the information for myself. I can have it do it, and it can also make a recording for me. So I made a recording of all of our offensive plays last year, and it would tell me which plays were really good. And it was like a 30-minute broadcast. Now you had to get over like the bot voices, but it was really good. Some of the stuff was a little off, but driving, I could listen to it and see how we were.
Dee, my ADHD went crazy. I still want to know what's your head coach's playlist. What is he listening to? Is it Celine Dion?
I mean, I've heard Coach Hartwig's like,
will you repeat it? My internet must be bad.
Oh, sorry. No, I was like, my ADHD, sometimes it goes nuts. And I want to know what his playlist is. Is it Celine Dion? Is it a little bit of Lawrence Welk? I mean, what is this?
I don't know if Derek heard you or not, but
Derek?
Coach Hartwig's got he's got the playlist going.
I didn't. My internet, man. All right, I think I'm good now.
All right, yeah, you're good.
No,
No, okay. Can you hear me? You good now?
You need to upgrade, homie.
don't know, man. I
can
must
hear you.
be.
My stuff is freezing, man.
I must have been Mr.
Southeast
Roboto.
Iowa internet.
Yes, interwebs is what I call it.
He's back though.
I think
Yes.
I'm back now.
Perfect. I'm gonna guess that he listens to some pretty heavy grunge music. Come on, man. Look at him.
He's
Me?
he's up with the kids.
No. No, the head
Coach
coach.
Hartwig. Gary.
Oh, Hartwig, yeah. I was honestly wondering because, man, he's a dude. He's a dude.
Yeah, I think he's up with
Whatever he's doing, I want to do it.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it kind of looks like my interwebs might be going funny because there's Danon. He's being circled out. But Mike, we're close to the end, man. How are you able to basically be the dad? The offensive coordinator working that many hours. How are you specifically setting like certain times at home, whatever, to spend with them? What is your routine?
Yeah, obviously you guys all know it. It takes a village, and the wives are the best part of it. They let you do the things that we're able to do. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Annie, she's basically the head coach at home all the time, and I've done that a few times. And let me tell you what, it's hard work. If there's ever a sick day that the kids need to stay home, it's always, hey, can you stay home today? And she does an amazing job, which makes it a blessing. She takes all of our kids to all of our games and everything like that, so they get to be there before the game. I try to like de-escalate myself. So before the game, they always come up to me. They want to give the kids high fives walking out of the locker room. I'm sure Derek saw that in our playoff games and stuff like that. Like, I try to disconnect because I've already thought about it enough. I know what we're doing, our first play, our first whatever, our first drive. I know what I expect to get. So I'm prepared enough that I feel like I can disconnect by the time Friday night comes a little bit. And I think it's good for me. And then the best thing is, like, with Coach Hartwig at Iowa City West, it's a family-orientated program. Like my kids over break here, they've gone to the weight room with me, both of them, my 2 and 4-year-old. So whenever our kids are lifting, they're in there too, and they want to give all the boys high fives. They're asking what their names are. And I think that's important for our kids to see too, because they've got a lot of little kids that they have no idea what their names are that are looking up to them when they're playing on Friday nights. And, they want to be a Fort Madison Bloodhound or an Iowa City West Trojan. My kid will play tackle football downstairs here, and he'll say he's the Prairie Hawks and we're Iowa City West. And he'll say, why didn't you beat Prairie Hawks, Dad? And, well, we're going to get him next year, and it's just stuff like that. Like, they remember and they're involved. It's a family thing. And and then, some days I've left practice, 30 minutes early to go watch, his flag football games, which I thank Coach Hartwig for doing that. But at the end of the day, like, I've got great assistants that work with me as well on the offensive side. And we're all on the same page, and we meet, we talk, and we text, and everybody kind of knows what's going on. And now it's year 2. So it's a lot better than it was in year 1 whenever they were trying to learn all my terminology and scheme and all that stuff. So it takes time. It takes a lot of work, but man, it's worth it.
100%. Now we're down to the nitty gritty. This is our last show of the year, guys. Can you believe it?
Where'd the year go?
I just can't believe that that our next show will be next year. I thought that was kind
26.
of a. All right. So final question: favorite offensive concept? Mine is the flex bone triple. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, he's not. No, you're not.
So favorite offensive concept?
Yeah, for us, we're a spread offense. We want to run the ball, but my favorite concept is trap. I think that when people think spread, they think outside runs, they think all this stuff. And so trap is really our run play that keeps everybody honest in the box. And that way we can spread it out. people would probably say that it's not necessarily the play I run the most, but it's year in and year out, we're going to carry trap.
Almost every game that I watch him, DD, he's running the triple reverse pass. We ran that a few times in Centerville. I don't know, God, long time ago. But anyway, DD, what's your favorite offensive concept other than flex bone?
Ironically, I'm going to go with Kaz on this. I think a lot of people. I played receiver in college, right? So I love slinging the rock, and I love air raid stuff. But as a coach, I've really fallen in love with the offensive line and all of that, because as a player, I'll be honest, I didn't care. Block somebody, you big dummy. And you hear that from the stands, and as you get into coaching, and if you understand football, you know that it's way more complex than that. But I just think that there's something poetic about an offensive line when things just hit, and you get a good pin, and man, that trap is there, and it's a good kick out. It's such a beautiful thing.
I thought it was going to be the last question, but freaking Fry, man, freaking Fry, he's
We could go
slamming
all
it
day,
down.
man. I love talking football.
My favorite pass concept would be slant wheel.
That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely.
And go ahead.
Go for it. Absolutely.
No, what I was saying is the slant wheel always gave me the toughest go of it when I would run zone or even man, against as the defensive coordinator side of things. So,
yeah.
What's yours?
I got a plethora of things, but it's really like fitting the needs to your kids. This year we ran a play where we had like a sail route. So it'd be in a trips concept. And I mean, it's about 100% success rate. We got I think we averaged like 20 yards a pop on it. Maybe one incompletion during that whole time, but we'd be in a trip set. Our two outside guys run verticals. So if it's quarters coverage or cover 3, they're taking the corner and the safety with them. And we run a go concept enough that our number 3 runs a bender. So he's running to the other side hash. Instead of him running a bender, he runs a sail. So he sails the bender and then he gets back out on a sail concept. And then we push the back to the flat. So then out of quarters coverage or cover 3, that outside linebacker's influence to jump that. So now if it's quarter coverage, that backside safety has to honor the bender, but then also get back to the sail. So that sail's wide open. Out of cover 3, that number 2 guy's taking him vertical. So now it just opens up, and that Mike has to push all the way out to that sail concept at about 15 yards of depth. It's a great play. We kind of just stumbled across it this year. Just trying to find ways to put teams in conflict.
DD?
Yeah. Mike runs some awesome things. So the drive concept was something that, I really started studying after my first practice up there with those guys, and the way that he explains it, it was intriguing. So that's kind of been one of my off-season studies, but I love mesh. I think it can be expensive, and I think just me being a Lincoln Riley fan, not saying mesh would be wrong. So I think mesh is a great concept. We ran it a lot, in the past. Probably didn't run it as much as we should have this year and out of different looks, but maybe we'll come back to it.
I have to throw this out here for Owen Huffman. Now I can send one of my flex guys out in motion, and he's running the wheel, and the tight end's running the slant. Come on, man. All right, so I can't believe
Slant
that.
It's tough. I coached DBs for 10 years, man, and that is a DB coach's nightmare right there.
Do you guys have any last bits of good information for anybody?
Man, I would just say thanks for having me on, guys. I know what you guys are doing down there. Talked to both of you, and I know it's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I know the results haven't paid off here in the last couple of years, but I know you're building something great, and love talking ball. So anytime you guys want to talk, hit me up or whatever. I'm an open book. I don't have secrets. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, and I'll share either one.
Well, here's the deal, Mike. You've always had an open invitation to come on Dog Pound Radio, the Coach Show, anytime that you want.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's it, guys. You see you later. See you next year.